First, I want to thank Coach Toff and Sultan for this opportunity and for this gathering. I wish we had something like this 20 something years ago when I was going to get into production. It would have helped a lot because a lot of us who started more than 2 decades ago, we are the scapegoats. We are the ones that were used for the experiments. You guys are in a time where knowledge abounds, and there are certain mistakes that you would not make that we made. And the things that took us 20 years will probably take you 5 years, 7 years. Will not take you so much time. The only thing that you cannot buy is experience. And you cannot buy that. You can buy fame. I hope you know you can buy fame. Yeah, if you have money, you will be famous quickly. But you cannot buy experience. You cannot buy character. Character is built, and it's built over time. And on that note, I also want to acknowledge my dear, amazing wife of 16 years. She's Please stand up. Let them see your fine self. That's my manager. If I don't do it, yeah, I'm going to sleep in the compound. I'm just joking. It just reduce the amount of meat they go give me for a house. Praise God. All right. So what I want to do is on two folds. I want to share my story and hope that it would inspire somebody. Then I want to also talk about how I balance ministry and business. I hope you want to hear that. Yeah, but let me start with my story, my general story. First, I was born into a family that loves music. My grandfather was the founder of the church that I grew up in. It's a KNS church. It's a white garment church. And I am grateful that I went through that route. And I'll tell you why. In our Pentecostal setting, we don't have strong sense of Africanism. But in a white garment church or in a CSC church or in those Orthodox churches, you have that strong traditional music feel in that space. And that has helped me a lot in having a sound that is hybrid. That's not just Western, but it's also African. If you put me into any of those spaces, I'm going to work very well. And that's how my mind thinks. I'm thinking rhythm. Now, you guys, what you do with loops is that you drag and drop. I create loops. And that's because of where I came from. And I do it in less than 30 minutes. I'm done with like a percussion session. I'm done with it in 30 minutes. Just once I have the tones I want to use, I can create. Because I came from that era where we don't drag and drop. You create from scratch. And even now, when you drag and drop, there's certain monetization options that you might not be able to take advantage of because they will ask you, were these samples original? Right? So that there are no issues of copyright. So even when you use samples now, you have to find a way to tweak it so that it's different from the one you bought. Are you get what I'm saying? So I grew up in a church compound. My parents have been separated before I was 4 years. And interesting to say that had its own advantage and disadvantage. Everything that has pros has cons also. So I grew up in that church compound with music on the inside. Music for me is not just something that I learned to do. It was a God-given gift. It was a God-given gift. Most people will learn to translate songs to tonic software. I never learned it. It was as natural as, yes, I didn't learn how to translate songs to tonic software. I just found out that I could just do that easily. When I was 4, I had a toy piano, and I would usually just with one hand try to, get the tonic software of songs. And I did that, moved from that to the pedaling organ. Is there anybody here who has ever played a pedaling organ? That you for it to sound. We didn't know it was stressful. It's thinking about it now that occurred to me that It was quite a stressful experience. Well, I was used to that. So I would play with the pedaling organ. This time around, I was not even doing much. I would just sit down, play with one hand, play songs. I would spend a lot of time. Every time there was time to eat, they have to call me from the church. Because I spent a lot of time with all these instruments and all of that. I learned to play the trumpet when I was around 10. In short, trumpet was my first instrument. The only reason why I stopped playing trumpet was because my mom would always say, well, there was just a meet around playing the trumpet that time, as if it was going to get your manhood to swell up. And it was a myth. So it was not really true. So, but I had this love for playing the keyboard also. So something happened to me when I got into secondary school, GSS1. Don't forget, this time around, I had not been taught properly. So I was just play with my one hand, probably play two notes together. I was just trying to make sense of what was on the inside. And that's why you need a mentor. You can have the seed on the inside, but if there's nobody to help you navigate. One of the things that we've not been able to do very well in our African setup is to conceptualize things. When people discover things, they audit. They audit. And what we're supposed to do is supposed to create systems so that it can be replicated and then become big and massive. So, when I was in GS1 in King's College, Lagos, I met Kobam Sasuko. Kobam Sasuko was in GS2 at that point. And one of those days, before the assembly starts, Kobam was the school pianist. He played the national anthem and he would do it so well. I was so thrilled. I would ask myself, is this guy blind or not? No, I was not so certain, but I was told that he's blind. But the way he did things and all that, it was so tough to believe that he couldn't see. And one of those days, I was playing the piano before he got up, and he made a statement that changed my life forever. He said, who was that playing like an area boy? That was it. You know, some people get offended when something sounds like an insult instead of getting challenged. The same thing that gets you offended is usually the same thing that's supposed to propel you. The stumbling block could also be the rock that you stand on to see far. So for me, it was not a statement of offense, it was a statement of challenge. Like, oh, I'm going to make you see differently because of this statement. So I got home and I told my dad, I need to go to a music school. Unfortunately, I was able to go to Fete Praise. How many of you know Fete Praise? Okay, good. Just two. So I went to Fete Praise, learned to play triads, learned certain things. I was practicing every day without fail from around 4 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. every day. I mean every day. Fortunately for me, I was able to get access to the Casio CTK 100. Yes, Casio CTK 100. Somebody just gifted my grandfather's church at that time. So I asked the choir master, can I be practicing with this? So I took that into the room upstairs. Then I would practice. I was doing that. And I made a decision from the beginning that I was not going to transpose. So for transposers in the house, it's still possible to do without it. It's a decision anyway. It's a tough one. Especially if you play very well on one key now. F sharp or C. It becomes a tough one. But it's a decision you could make. So one of the things that I would do those times, because at a point I had to leave my grandfather's church because I was also in love with contemporary music. And in there we didn't have contemporary music. So I learned to play hymns. The truth is, the way I learned to sight read was not by structured learning. It was like revelation. And when I say revelation, in school, what they will teach you is minim, crotchet. All of you know those things. Crotchet, what else? Semiquaver, and then you hear things like time signature, 4/4, 6/8. So one of those days, I got home because we had an organist in church who could really play. And for me, it was by ear. So what I hear him play, I would have some form of understanding. So I got home that day and I picked up the hymn book that the organist would play from. And it was this hymn. I looked for a hymn that I could recognize, which was Abide With Me. And I looked at it. This was how I learned to sight read. I looked at it and I saw the movement of the notes, the rise and fall. And I looked at the key signature as we have been taught in school, because I was doing music as a GSS student. And I saw that this is E flat. How many flats do we have for E flat? 3. Are you sure? F, B, E. Okay. E. 3. So I looked at it. It had 3 flats. I said, this is E flat. And I saw the first note was on G. And I know the tonic sulfur. It made sense. It clicked. So this is how they sight read. It clicked. And that's why I can teach anybody to sight read in 4 hours. In 4 hours. I mean, if you don't know anything whatsoever, I will teach it in 4 hours. And this is something that people learn for a year in a school structure. But that's a story for another time. Because one of the things I believe should happen to our educational system is that things have to be faster than this. Things have to be what? A lot of things that we spend 4 years in school for, so there are things that we could do in 2 years. It's a lot of, unnecessary time wasted, And I'm saying this so that when you have your structure in the future, or when you are in the places of influence, you know what to talk about. And you know the kind of changes that should occur. Because you suffer doesn't mean that other people should. Are you getting my point? Because you suffer doesn't mean that every other person should. It should become better. That's our African problem. We want everybody to go through what you went through. Why? It should become better. And sometimes it's greed. Because why I say it's greed is this. If I'm going to charge you per month, and what you will learn, you can learn it in 3 months. If I extend it to 1 year, I'm going to make more money. You get the point. So these are things that we have to unlearn as we move along. So I started learning, started doing that, went to Fete Praise, came out. I didn't stop there. My brother was learning the guitar at the same time. So we did like an exchange program. He would teach me how to play the guitar. So I learned chord 1, chord 5 on the guitar. We were playing. I learned all those placements. And I had a friend who borrowed me our guitar at that time. So I learned that. After I finished the piano course, I learned to play the saxophone also in the same season. By the time I was in SS1, I learned to play the clarinet, I learned to play the flute. So I was just open to whatsoever. Any instrument I encountered, I wanted to just learn to play it. I'm probably one of those boys you will see in the White Garment Church behind playing the clef, playing the shekere. I learned to play all of that. Then by the age of 13, 14, I became an assistant organist in my grandfather's church. Because now I could sight read. I would look at the hymns, play it and all that. Do you know that at a point, I thought that what made sound from the bass guitar were the dots on the... I thought, I'm serious. Because when those guys would come to our church those times and we would play in the bass, I just knew that I was pressing something. So in my mind, until I found out that it was the fact that you plucked the string and your hand put pressure somewhere, and that's to say that the distance between where you are and where you need to be is just knowledge. You can be whatsoever God has placed in your heart to become if you systematically learn. There was a time you didn't know what A was for, and a teacher taught you A is for apple. Now it's not A, it's R. Are you getting what I'm saying? So whatsoever you want to become, if you sow the seeds now, in no time you're going to get to that place. Then, because I was interested in contemporary gospel music, I got an offer into a Redeemed church, very close by. So what happened was that these guys needed a keyboard player, and they went to Fete Praise to say, oh, we need a keyboard player. And then one of the tutors, they said, I know one person that can solve your problem. His house. There were no phones. There were no mobile phones then. So you have to go to the person's house. So they came to my house. They met my mom. And I told my mom, oh, and she said, are you interested to follow? I said, sure. Why not? That's how I joined a contemporary gospel church, which was a Redeemed church. So I started learning. And the way I learned to play contemporary music was by ear and by book. See, you will miss out a lot if you don't learn to read. It would become an hindrance to your speed. If all you want to do as a musician is learn by ear. I learned to play jazz music by reading, not by hearing. There's a jazz piano book by Mark Levine, big. The first time I picked it, it didn't make sense. It took 1 year for me to come into understanding of what was inside. I picked it again and I went through from top to bottom. It was a tough one. Because for me, I'm a practical person. Everything I learn, I'm asking myself, how do I apply it to real life? And the same thing throughout. Let me not jump ahead of myself. Let me go back to the Redeemed Church. So the Redeemed Church, I was there. This was at a time where there was no serious arrangement as per contract what we're going to be paid. Are you getting my point? I was in SS2 or so at this time. SS2, yes. But I could really play, and I was really serious with this. Even though I had not decided that music was what I wanted to do at that point, because one of those days, my teacher in school, in KC, when I was in SS2, he asked me a question. He said, what would you like to study in the university? And I mentioned medicine. Yeah, actually mentioned medicine. And the man paused and he looked at me. He said, it's not like I'm cursing you, Wale, but if you do anything outside music, you will not make it. And he followed up with another statement. He said, if I have what you have, I won't be here. That was what he said. I didn't still take it seriously, but I never forgot what he said. And I still did jam. And I filled in for and I failed. That's when I knew it. And that was my first academic failure. So I knew that there was something wrong. You know, musicians are brilliant. Yes, we are very brilliant. You don't even know what you have. Your brain is wired differently. Your brain is wired differently. That's why if you have been playing music before you started learning to drive, you will learn it very quickly because there's already coordination. Yeah. Anybody here? Yeah, there's already your brain is wired differently. Music is more complex than you think. So a lot of times, even people who are in music, they will find out that they're probably in sciences because they tell you that the brilliant students should go to sciences. And that's usually the mistake. So I had that kind of situation, but I now had a space, 1 year of confusion, where I needed to clarify things. Now I had failed JAM, my first academic failure. And I detest failure, generally as a person. If I'm going to do anything, I want to be sure that I'm going to do it well and be able to get to a particular point. At a point, I thought I was going to be one of the biggest piano players in the world. But life happened, and that ambition died. So I was asking myself, okay, what do I want? If I'm not going to do medicine, if I'm going to do music, what am I going to do with music? Which is the question I want to answer now. What do I want to do with music? Because around me at that time, I couldn't even see anybody around it. This is not internet time where you have mentors online. No. The people you saw around in your church were either doctors, engineers, lawyers. Are you getting my point? So saying you wanted to do music full time did not make sense. Because even the musicians that you knew around were broke. Are you getting my point? So you didn't even want to No, 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 no. So now I'm faced with, I just failed jam. Music is the passion because even when I was in secondary school, every evening I would usually find myself in one rehearsal or the other. So just let you know, by the time I was in SS2 third term, I was already a music director in the Redeemed Church. Yes, and music directing now is different. Music directing now, you are soft. That time I was in SS3, I was hard as a music director because you can't come into my space and do anyhow. Elderly people will come late, they will go and face the wall. And they loved me. You miss your notes, you stand on the chair. You can't come on serious. Now we don't have those kind of music directors anymore. If you do that, you're like, ah. I was that kind of music director. Oh, and all of them were volunteers. And they loved me for the discipline. They would come in time because I will be there 2 hours before the rehearsal time, rehearsing with the band. And that time you split with your left hand too. So for you who don't know, split. You play the keyboard on the right, you play the bass on the left. And you increase the left to 127. Aha. You get it? In short, one of the ways I trained myself for not transposing was that even if the person was going to sing on C, and probably I want to learn how to play on B, I will transpose it to B and go through the suffering for that 20 minutes of my mind just walking. What's so on B? And you're splitting and you're playing the bass at the same time. So I will go through that to learn a new key by force. You can't afford to make a mistake, and I will go through all of that process. So now I had 1 year of space. What do I want to do with music? So many options. Studio was there, and thought, okay, when I finish school, probably we'll start up with studio. Or when I finish school, probably become a lecturer. That was an option. If I do so well, probably become an assistant lecturer, go for my master's, and all of that. I also thought of teaching, which is music education. Let me tell you guys, especially for church musicians, I feel that church musicians are probably one of the most entitled people. Yeah. And the reason is you feel that the church owes you something, and the church does not owe you something. Especially those in big churches. You say, church has money, but they're not paying us well. You agreed before you came in. And there was nothing said concerning how there will be appraisal for increment. So you're stuck to how the Spirit leads the pastor. What did I say? Where's the contract that you signed? Are you getting my point? But guess what? That's not even the only part. The other part is that you are not even full-time. Church services are only about two or three times in the week. Wednesday midweek service or Thursday midweek service, Saturday rehearsal, and then Sunday service. So 3 times. Let's calculate the amount of hours those 3 times. Let's even say 12 hours. Do you know that 12 hours, when you sum it up, it's not even up to a day yet? So guess what? You expect to make all the money from 12 hours of work in a month. So what are you doing with the rest of your time? It's important to ask that question. What are you doing with what? The rest of your time. Let me give you a breakdown of what it feels like if you were even a music educator. A breakdown on the base level. How much do you think an hour of teaching the piano or the voice should be conservatively? Please give me. No. Like 1 hour, what should the price be? What should be the cost? Conservatively. Yes, right now, yeah. Per hour in Nigeria. Around 15,000. So let's say 10,000 conservatively per class. You are going to have 4 classes in a month. If you have 1 student, you are going to make how much? If you have 10, how much are you going to make? Which church pays 400 now? Let me tell you, you have been emotional with music, and that's the problem. You are attached to the identity that being the bass player of the church has given you. Because the music educator is not popular. And sometimes you have to choose between being famous and wealthy. God will give some both. Are you getting what I'm saying? Well, I just gave you analysis of having 10 students paying minimum fee of 10K per class. And that's 4 hours per student. And that's 40 hours a month. 40 hours a month is less than 2 days. And you're making 400,000 naira. No church pays a keyboardist in Lagos 400K. Are you getting what I'm saying? No church. It's just basic analysis. But guess what? You have tied your identity to being the chief keyboardist of the first bassist of that band. Even most bands don't pay that much per month because the gigs are not consistent and you can't plan with it. And then when they travel, you are here, they play with another band. And there's no problem with that. It's their band, you are not the leader. So why are you angry over somebody else's vision? And that's what happens. You are upset. See, when they want to travel now, they will not carry us. Did they tell you they were going to carry you in the first place? And then, even if you now travel, how much do they pay for those gigs? Do you know what your time is worth? That's on the educational part. Let me give you on the performance part, which is, see, if you are as good as you claim to be, you will not be looking to a church salary. What did I say? It's because you don't even understand the function of music. If you understand the function of music properly and you're ready to grow a career, if you are very good as a performer, we call it ministration in church, but you're a performer. Amen. There's performance in ministration. Yes. Even pastors learn public speaking. Yeah. They do voice training. Are you getting my point? It's important. So even as a performer, I will give you the breakdown of what you could make as a performer. So I did an experiment as a piano player. I had always dreamt of having a piano concert where people would just come to listen. And I did one some years ago. I think it was 2000 and... What year was it? Maybe 14? Maybe 2014. The space could take about 100 people. People came in, they paid 2,000 naira or so. About 50 to 100 people. So 50 to 100 people, let's say about 70 people. 70 times 2K. 140. And that was my first. If I took it seriously and I expanded that, probably at this point, I'll be filling a hall that could take 5,000 to 10,000 people. Let's even say 5,000 people. So look at 5,000 people who are willing to pay 10,000 for regular to watch me play. Let's do the maths. That's what? 50 million. Cut it into 2. 25. 25 million will be what I will use to organize the... I'll pay for the hall. Logistics. Yes, sound and all of that. So I have 25 million that I want to spend to pay my guys, the band. Cut that into 2. 12.5 million. 12.5 million is mine. They are sharing 50. It's my business. I'm the one that saw the vision and said, come and join me. Some of you are too sentimental. Emotional. See, I saw that it was 1 million that they gave the artist, and they gave us 15K. that's what you agreed to, man. Are you getting what I'm saying? There are two business models when you consider that. One is the fact that the artist is also considering how much they've spent before they go to that point. Yes or no? Mm-hmm. That's one business model. Do you know how much they should bid, you know? And the reason why they call the artists is not because they are anointed, it's because they are famous. And fame is not cheap. Are you getting what I'm saying? It's because the person is what? Do you agree with me? That that's one of the reasons why the person was called. Because there are other people who are anointed that are not known. They will not call them. It's simple. There's no need. If you were the pastor too, won't you do the same? Some of you are silent now. Are you getting what I'm saying? So there's so much you can do, even in music, before we even get to beyond the music. Even in music. Do you know I did the calculation of if you were a music educator? Now imagine those 10 students, you have them at the same time. It's one online class per week. Second level. Third level, now imagine it's a course that you've already recorded. You spend 3 months recording it properly, and then you chill, doing other things. And you're advertising. And you continue to advertise. Continue to advertise. And you continue to do that. You see how your life will look. You already see it. You're not going to be... I'm not saying some people are not called to temple music. And there's nothing bad with being called to temple music, saying, oh, I'm supposed to do church music. It's a good place, but that's another conversation for another time. Because I'm working on something that when I'm done with when I want to execute it, it's going to help temple musicians so that they can make money, so that we can look for a way to force pastors to pay more. I can't share it now because that's not the... But there's something that I'm working on. That by the time we execute it, it will not be you asking for promotion. It will be what I want to create that will relate with the church, and they will be able to pay you more. Are you in for that? Okay, good. So finally, on the part of balancing ministry with business. First, let's not forget that the parable of the talents, God gave some 1, 2, and some 5. And for a lot of musicians, the truth is, music is not the only thing that you know how to do. Yes or no? But because you have convinced yourself that music is selfish, it cannot coexist with other things. If I join other things to it, music will suffer. Abi? It's not true. It's not what? It has something to do with time management. Jesus was doing kingdom work, but he was also a carpenter. Apostle Paul was a missionary, but he was also a tent maker. And there were trips that they would go to that Apostle Paul was the one fending for everybody on his team. Where did he get the money from? Tent making. There were trips that Apostle Paul would go to that he would not collect offering. Yeah, he said that if I collect offering in this place, it will affect the gospel. It will affect how they receive the gospel. So he would use his own funds to do some of those things. So ministry is not supposed to affect business if you learn to configure your time. Let me tell you the truth. I'm still struggling with it. But it's a life that I've accepted. Are you getting what I'm saying? It's a struggle because as a mixing engineer, sometimes after 6 a.m. prayers, by 6:30 I'm in the studio and I can be there till 8 in the night. It's recently that the Lord starts correcting me and saying, you can't continue like this. There are other sides of you and I need you to what? Do something about. So now, the instruction from the Lord is work from 10 to 6, which is 8 hours. I do more than 12 hours. And even that instruction, I'm still struggling with that instruction. A serious struggle. But I have my manager there who is already giving side whispers. Like, But it's the reality. There's more to you than just music. And this is not to relegate music. If you apportion your time very well, and instead of making sure that you complete that Netflix series or Prime series, make sure you invest in other things. I'm sure Coach Toff is going to talk about the tech side and all of these other things. But this is just to let us know that it's possible to go beyond music. Thank you. I am Wole Adesanya, a music producer, mixing engineer, pastor, and a music executive. When I started talking about the options that you have inside of music, the career options, I think it got people excited, especially when I gave the analysis of what it could be if you decided to just teach music alone, or if you decided to become a performer, what the possibilities are. What a sustainable music career looks like to me, first is one of consistency. You have to be sure that this is what you want to do. And a lot of times musicians feel that music is different from any other career. If you ask anybody who is into banking or any other field, medicine, it takes time to build these things. So you have to be resilient. You go through the challenges, you go through the discouragement, and then you have to make a decision that, oh, this is what I have decided to do, and I'm going to stay there, learn, grow, accept the challenge, make sure that you're not going to back down until you get to the top of your career. It's also good to have a mentor so that you can see farther than where you are right now. What you're exposed to will determine what you accept and what you allow into your life. Amazing initiative, because music itself is not the only gift that a musician would have. Usually, if you have music, then it means that you're a creative in that sense, and your brain is wired to be able to learn many things. And if I look at what Coach Toff is doing, is to try to get musicians into a place where they can add more to what's on ground and be able to expand, especially in the area of tech and all of that, so that it's not just one option. You need multiple streams of income to become wealthy and influential in this space. So I would say it's an amazing initiative, and it's something that I'm already part of that anyways. So that's it.